Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Niagara Police Service Board meeting to order for October 19th, 2023. My name is Jen Lawson, and I am the chair of the Niagara Police Services Board. We begin the meeting this morning by acknowledging that the Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawindaronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of the Niagara Police Services Board stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. I'll do roll call now. Member Kiokio.
Present.
Member Kapasavanu. Member Yip.
Present.
And we have regrets from Vice Chair Eek, Members Steele, and Members McKendrick. Do we have any members that have declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest? Seeing none, if I can ask Members Kiokio and Kapasavanu move that the minutes of the public board meeting held Thursday, September 28th, 2023 be adopted as circulated. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? No one's opposed. That is carried. If I can have Members Yip and Members Kiokio move that the minutes of the Public Finance Committee meeting held Thursday, October 12th, 2023 be adopted as circulated. Are there any questions or comments? Corrections? No. Seeing none, all those in favor? No one's opposed, so that's carried. Reports from myself. On behalf of the board, I would like to welcome Dave Tilley to the meeting. Dave is with the Inspectorate of Policing at the Ministry of the Solicitor General, and he serves as a policing services advisor to Zone 4 police boards in Ontario. He regularly attends our meetings as part of the routine visits by policing services advisors to police boards across the province. The board is pleased to see his continued attendance at our monthly meetings. The Canadian Association of Police Governance holds their monthly webinars as part of their educational strategy to keep police boards and police executives across Canada apprised of issues currently affecting the policing community. A webinar was held on October 12th entitled The Power of Police Associations, Real or Perceived Threats to Police Leadership and Governance. Board members are pre-registered for all webinars, and for those who cannot attend at the specific date and time, a copy of the recording will be sent to view at the later date. On October 18th, I joined Deputy Chief Flynn and members of the service at the Penner Home Hardware Spotlight Gala held in support of the Christian French Child Advocacy Centre. The Christian French Child Advocacy Centre is an important community partner that exists to bring kids and families together in a safe and secure environment where they are supported, comforted, and provided the opportunity to heal from the traumatic childhood events. On October 21st, Deputy Chief Flynn and I, along with service members, will be attending the Serving with Pride Gala and Awards Night being held at the Queen's Manor Event Centre in Brampton, Ontario. Serving with Pride is an organization that promotes diversity, integrity, awareness, and equity of the 2S LGBTQ+ employees within the policing, corrections, and criminal justice professions. All proceeds raised from the gala will be donated to SHIP, which is Services and Housing in the province, to support services for the 2S LGBTQ+ youth. On October 26th and 27th, the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards will host their 2023 annual Labour Conference at the Delta Hotels by Marriott, Toronto, Mississauga. Attendees will have the opportunity to learn more about labour relations landscape across Ontario through panel discussions with the Inspector General, Ontario Independent Review Director, and the Special Investigations Unit. Session topics will include police chiefs evaluation and training, legal developments on labour relation matters, Workplace Safety Insurance Board, and Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System, which is OMERS, and trends in the collective bargaining. Members Kiokio and Kapasavanu, the board's executive director, Chief McCullough, Deputy Chief Forty, and I will be attending the event. On November 3rd, the Pathstone Mental Health Foundation is hosting its annual Hope Award Gala in recognition of the outstanding contributions made to improve the lives of children and youth living with mental illness. This event is being held at the Fallsview Casino in Niagara Falls and will feature keynote speaker Howie Mandel with conversations rooted in mental health. In recognition of the board's sponsorship and the community partnership with Pathstone, members Kapasavanu, Caocchio, Chief McCullough, Deputy Chief Flynn, and I will be attending the event. The next board committee meetings is scheduled for Thursday, November 9th, and the next monthly board meeting will be held on Thursday, November 23rd. These meetings will be held at 9:30 a.m. in the community room at the police headquarters. And that's all I have. Chief.
Good morning, and thank you. I don't have any announcements this morning, so I'll start off with the 2023 homicide and attempt homicide statistics. During the reporting period of September 26th to October 14th, we had one homicide and one attempt homicide. I'll provide the board with a bit more information about that momentarily. To date, we've had 8 homicides in 2023. Comparatively, we had 10 in 2022, 6 in 2021, and 5 in 2020, with 7 occurring in 2019. With regards to the homicide, on October the 11th at 7:52 a.m., 8 district officers responded to a rural residence located on Victoria Avenue in Lincoln. 8 district detectives led the initial investigation, receiving support from the homicide unit and forensic services, as well as members of the emergency task unit, canine unit, and marine unit, who assisted with a coordinated search. At approximately 12:20 p.m., an adult female was located deceased on the property. A 56-year-old male from Lincoln has been arrested and charged with 1 count of first-degree murder. As this incident involves intimate partner violence, at this time, the service will not be releasing the name of the accused to protect the identity of the victim and her surviving family. And the homicide unit has assumed carriage of this investigation. Really tragic circumstance there. On Saturday, September 30th at 7:24 a.m., officers in Niagara Falls responded to a shooting incident on Chippewa Parkway, where a resident was awoken by a male knocking on their door, complaining of having been shot. The victim was transported to hospital, where they remain with non-life-threatening injuries. 2 district detectives believe this to be a targeted incident with no known threat to public safety. Just some information with regards to our traffic fatalities and serious motor vehicle collisions. During the month of September, there was 1 fatal motor vehicle collision and 1 life-threatening injury motor vehicle collision. To date, in 2023, we've had 14 fatalities. And if we look at the 5 previous years, in 2022, we had 18 for the entire year. 2021, we had 21. 2020, we had 16. And in years 2018 and 2019, we had 13 fatalities in each of those years. Just some information with regards to those collisions. On September the 9th at 2:17 p.m., officers in Niagara Falls responded to reports of a serious motor vehicle collision on Oakwood Drive south of McLeod Road. Officers determined a collision occurred involving an SUV and a motorcycle. Tragically, the male operator of the motorcycle was pronounced deceased at the scene, and this matter remains under investigation by our collision reconstruction unit. On Saturday, September 23rd at 7:33 p.m., officers in Niagara Falls responded to a serious collision on Portage Road near Rapids Road. The initial investigation determined a male cyclist had been struck by an SUV. Paramedics treated the cyclist and transported him to an out-of-town trauma center where he remains. And that collision remains under investigation by our collision reconstruction detectives. A few items in the news. In September, human trafficking unit detectives began an investigation for human trafficking-related offenses throughout Niagara and Ontario. Our detectives were assisted by the Barrie Police Service Human Trafficking Unit. On October the 4th, detectives executed a search warrant at a home in Thorold, along with the assistance of our emergency task unit. 2 suspects were arrested inside the residence. The search resulted in the seizure of evidence related to the human trafficking investigation and also yielded approximately $40,000 worth of suspected fentanyl, over $7,000 in currency, along with various drug trafficking-related paraphernalia. 2 28-year-old males from Thorold were charged with several drug-related and human trafficking-related offenses. As a result of the ongoing investigation, detectives have reason to suspect that there may be more victims. One accused is known to frequent the cities of Brantford, Woodstock, Sarnia, the GTA, Northern Ontario, as well as Winnipeg, Manitoba. Anyone with information about this incident is asked to contact detectives or utilize Crime Stoppers if they wish to remain anonymous. In June, the Opioid Enforcement and Education Unit detectives, along with the assistance of our 1 District Street Crime Unit, commenced an investigation into the illegal distribution of drugs in St. Catharines. On October 10th, detectives executed a search warrant on Ontario Street, resulting in the seizure of 210 grams of suspected fentanyl, 26 grams of suspected cocaine, and the combined estimated total of the seized drugs is valued at over $44,000. Arrested was a 33-year-old male from Richmond Hill and a 38-year-old male from St. Catharines and another 48-year-old male from St. Catharines. All 3 were charged with several drug-related offenses. And Madam Chair, that concludes my report for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any questions? Thank you. I think we have a presentation this morning from, I think the first presentation is from the Professional Standards Unit.
Yes, if I could introduce Superintendent Luke Greco, who oversees professional standards, and he'll walk you through a really good overview of what the Professional Standards Unit does, and the public complaint system, as well as our interactions with the Special Investigation Unit.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Chair Lawson, board members, senior staff. Thank you for this opportunity to present a quick overview of our Professional Standards Unit and the important work that they do. So what we do, the Professional Standards Unit serves to protect both the integrity of the Niagara Regional Police Service and the reputation of the Office of the Chief of Police. This mandate is met by conducting thorough and objective investigations into complaints that relate to organizational policies, services provided, and/or allegations of member misconduct. The Professional Standards Unit is responsible for investigating public complaints that are administered through the Office of the Independent Police Review Director, or OIPRD, internal complaints, and also liaising with the SIU and conducting Section 34 policy and service or conduct investigations related to SIU investigations that are undertaken by the SIU. The primary authorities of our professional standards investigations come from the current Police Services Act, the SIU Act, and the primary general order is our Conduct Complaints and Discipline General Order, plus all of our general orders that require members to conduct themselves appropriately and according to the policies of the general order. There are other regulatory pieces of legislation that we do touch on, but the primary ones are the ones that we've just listed. The Code of Conduct under the current Police Services Act lists a type of different forms of misconduct. These are the primary types of misconduct that are usually investigated or that come forward as through chief complaints or through public complaints that are made. You see, there are other forms of misconduct listed within the Police Services Act, but these are the primary ones that our investigations usually center around. So types of complaints, internal complaints or chief's complaints. The process for that is a member becomes aware of misconduct of another member of the service. A memorandum is moved through the chain of command, eventually to the chief's office. The chief has the final say on ordering the investigation into the form of misconduct or the allegation that's made. The report on the misconduct comes through, it's investigated, and the findings of it will then be proceeded with as whether it's substantiated or not. For public complaints, there's different forms. There's local complaints, the OIPRD, actual conduct complaints. So members of the public have to submit the complaint in writing on their form. It could be mailed or faxed or through an online submission. The complaint has to be signed by a complainant. The OIPRD will not accept anonymous complaints. And the person that's either directly or indirectly affected by the incident or the allegation of misconduct, such as a witness, can submit a complaint through the OIPRD. So through the Office of the Independent Police Review Director, public complaints are made by members of the public, which generally involve a specific officer's conduct or lack of service that they received or policies of the service. The OIPRD receives and manages and oversees all the complaints about police in Ontario that come from members of the public. It's an independent civilian agency that ensures the fairness and transparency of the process. The OIPRD can choose to retain an investigation, or they can refer it either back to the service that the members are part of or to another police service to conduct the investigation. The OIPRD will conduct a review of investigations if requested by complainants, such as an appeal process, to ensure that the investigation was completed in a fair and unbiased manner. So that's a request for review that members of the public, that if they're not satisfied with the outcome of the investigation, they can request a review and the OIPRD will conduct that review. Again, the types of complaints are local complaints, again in writing, has to be signed and directly or indirectly involved. Just some statistics, so you can see through the graph that we do get there's been a steady increase in the amount of public complaints coming in. However, the actual substantiated or allegations that are substantiated is very minimal compared to the actual amount of complaints that do come in. So just a graphical representation there. And then for internal complaints, again, fairly consistent number of internal complaints that come in. And again, the actual complaints that are substantiated are less than the amount of complaints that are submitted. Through the investigation, so upon being assigned an investigation either through the OIPRD or the internal process through a chief's complaint, the respondent officer is issued with a notice of the complaint. They're notified of it. They're usually given direction to provide statements, notes, and a copy of the complaint that's been made. Under the Police Services Act, members are compelled. They have to participate in the investigation. They have to participate in an interview if they're directed. They also have to provide all evidence that the Professional Standards Unit requests of them. And there's usually timelines associated with the requests that are made. And alternatively, it can be ordered to attend an interview, as I mentioned, and the member has to attend the interview and they have to ask any reasonable question that's put to them. They have to answer any reasonable question that's put to them. Different elements of the investigation that our professional standards investigators will go through, again, statements of the officers and witnesses, notes, incident histories through our CAD system, communication recordings, incident reports, various sources of video, either internally and externally, MDT transmission, offline searches through CPIC, and then cruiser portable GPS systems that we have. These are just some of the elements that we will incorporate into the investigation depending on the allegations, but it's not an all-inclusive list. The investigative report, once the investigation is completed, an investigative report has to be completed in writing to the Chief of Police. The Chief of Police designates or delegates this responsibility through the Inspector of Professional Standards to review the report. And the decision is either the allegation is substantiated, where it's been proven that there was misconduct, or unsubstantiated, where there was no misconduct. The respondent officers are issued or provided with a copy of the report, and that's in compliance with the Police Services Act. Once a decision, the time comes to make a decision, if the allegation is substantiated, through the Chief of Police, but through the delegated authority of the inspector, determination has to be made if the misconduct is deemed as serious or less serious, and that's in accordance with the Police Services Act. If it's serious misconduct is the finding, there's no choice. A formal hearing under Part 5 of the Police Services Act has to occur. The members will be served with a notice of hearing and any other related documents that are required. It's basically, that's the start of the hearing process into the matter. And if it's a less serious form of misconduct that's determined, there's several avenues to deal with it through informal discipline. It could be through training, a reprimand, forfeiture of hours, or any combination of penalty or disposition that the service and the member are willing to accept. In the case of public complaints, the complainant is a participant in that process and has to agree to any type of penalty that's imposed, and if they're not, then there's other forms of advancing the completion of the investigation. So the goals of discipline are to correct inappropriate behavior, to exemplify higher standards of conduct, to maintain public confidence in the police, and for the officers to take responsibility for their actions for substantiated allegations. We'll move over to the Special Investigations Unit. Like from the slides earlier that showed the graphic representation, the majority of our complaints are public complaints that do come in. And our SIU investigations they're not as frequent. We're usually consistently around 20 SIU investigations per year, but you'll see that it does fluctuate through over the last few years. So the Special Investigations Unit, they're a civilian agency with a statutory mandate to conduct criminal investigations into incidents involving the police that result in serious injury, death, allegations of sexual assault, or the discharge of a firearm at a person. The Professional Standards Unit members liaise with the SIU and complete Section 34 policy, service, and conduct investigations once the SIU investigation is completed. General Order 79, SIU General Order, outlines our officers' responsibilities and also the responsibilities of the Professional Standards Unit with the Section 34 investigations. A police service is required to notify the SIU when the following occur. There's a serious injury or death, there's a discharge of a firearm at a person, or a report of sexual assault that has occurred. An official is involved. An official is a member of the police service. The official was on duty or off duty, but the circumstances above are met. Where the matter concerns a death or injury, force was used by the official. The affected person was in custody or under detention by the official. The affected person was in a motor vehicle collision involving an official or pursued by the official, or the service reasonably believes that the official's conduct may have been a contributing factor to the incident. Special Investigations Unit definitions, again, the member of the public has to sustain an injury that results in hospitalization, would prompt a notification. The person suffers a fracture to a skull, fractures to the skull, limb, rib, or vertebrae, suffers burns to a significant portion of their body, loses any portion of their body, injury that causes loss of vision or hearing, injury that is likely to interfere with the person's health or comfort, and is not transient or trifling in nature. And the process that we follow in the Professional Standards Unit is, when in doubt, we would notify the SIU of the injury if it's not clearly delineated with one of those previous requirements. Again, the frequency of investigations, you can see it's generally in the 20s. It goes up and down over the last few years. And that's the presentation. So open to any questions if there are any.
Perfect, thank you. Board members, do you have any questions? Member Yip?
Thank you, through you, Chair. What are some examples of serious and less serious?
So serious misconduct, from my experience, has been if a police service member has been charged with a criminal offense, that would form a basis of serious misconduct. If egregious misconduct under the Police Services Act, not necessarily a criminal offense, could also result in a finding of serious misconduct. And less serious could be a breach of a general order, poor conduct towards a member of the public, as far as an officer swearing in public, could be determined to be less serious. Again, there's several factors that we look at prior to making that determination of serious or less serious, though.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Chair, one of the consequences of, I think it was less serious, forfeiture of hours. So I guess what does that mean? Because it immediately strikes me that an officer having to forfeit hours means that there's a burden on the service for making up those hours.
So what it could mean several different things. And again, under the current version of the Police Services Act, the officer or the respondent officer has to be willing to accept the penalty, and if not, they would have to go to a hearing. The forfeiture of hours could be forfeiture of annual leave, forfeiture of special bank hours, a work without pay situation where the member would have to come in and work a shift without pay, and any other special or any other type of bank hours that they might have, they could have to forfeit that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Members Kapusvanu?
Through you, Chair, could you just give me an example of internal complaints, please? I'm just looking at your graph, and the numbers are pretty significant and steady throughout, like from 2018 to 22. And I'm just wondering if that kind of points out, is it like one consistent complaint that you're finding, or is it right across the board, and what is being done to mitigate those kind of things?
So there's various types of internal complaints that do come through. It could be a matter of a supervisor identifies that a member was deficient with an investigation. It could lead to an internal complaint. Any breach of any of our policies or procedures could lead to an internal complaint being ordered or requested. Yeah, there's a broad spectrum of what it could be. We also, with the current, under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, our requirements to have a respectful workplace policies. Some of our complaints dovetail into respectful workplace complaints, where a member identifies that they may have been treated poorly by another member or by a supervisor. A review from our respectful workplace committee could determine that there was a breach of the code of or the general order regarding respectful workplaces, and that could also lead to an internal chief's complaint outside of the scope of the respectful workplace policy.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have a quick question. You mentioned a couple of times the current act. Are there any significant ones, significant changes that we should be aware of?
So under the CSPA, when the regulations do come forward, from the initial review that I did some time ago into it, the allegations, they're going to be rebranded, different titles, different language throughout, but they're very consistent with the type of misconduct that's alleged. All the sections are going to change. Like I said, the wordings are going to change, and different vocabulary throughout the CSPA. But as far as the processes behind it, those will be consistent. The rules that are currently in place, the majority of them have been reincorporated into the CSPA. So procedurally, there won't be a lot of changes. When it comes to the hearings, there are going to be some changes there once the regulations are approved, where currently we have internal hearing officers, or we could find an external hearing officer from another service or a retired hearing officer to run a hearing. And I believe under the CSPA, the province will be moving to a dedicated body of adjudicators that would be required to be notified.
Perfect. Thank you. That was a great presentation. Thank you so much. If I can have members Kapasavanu and members Yip move that the presentation be received. All those in favor? No one's opposed. That's carried. We have another presentation as part of our ongoing education. Chief?
Thank you, Chair. It's my pleasure to have Staff Sergeant Sarah Rose, who oversees our major crime units within the service, come forward, and she's going to do a presentation on the work that our homicide unit does.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, through you, Chair. I'd like to give you an overview of what our homicide unit does. So we'll start. It's not working. Which button did you hit? Yeah, it's not working. There we go. Thank you. So I'll let you know what our unit looks like. We currently have 4 detective sergeants, 6 detective constables, and 1 temporary detective constable, and we have 1 cold case detective sergeant. I'm staff sergeant of the unit, and I directly report to Inspector Dave Mazzotti, and he's the investigative support of support services. So what we do, our mandate in the homicide unit is to investigate homicides, assaults where death is imminent, in custody deaths, suspicious missing persons, police involved shootings where death and injury has resulted, shooting incidents involving Canada Border Services Agency officers during the course of their duties where death has or injury has resulted, sudden deaths of children under the age of 5, cold cases, and any other investigations assigned by the chief. So in the homicide unit, this current year, we have investigated 11 files. 6 of those files have been considered homicides. The chief mentioned 8 investigations. We have had six of our investigations are considered homicides. I do have under my umbrella the opioid enforcement or education enforcement unit. So if they lay any manslaughter charges, those will fall within our umbrella because of the major case management system. So within the last 3 years, the homicide unit has had 2 unsolved homicide investigations, one on Pleasant Avenue in St. Catharines, and the other one was in Lincoln, and both these investigations involved a firearm. So currently, our unit has 11 files before the courts. Our homicide numbers fluctuate over the year, but they remain consistent with past years. This is just an overlook of our investigations going back to 2020. 2023 should be 6. And then, like I said, currently we have 11 matters before the courts. So just a dissection of an investigation. The unit is mandated to conduct an investigation using the guidelines of the Major Case Management System, which is the MCM. The MCM sets out investigative standards, training, and common case management technology, and it's used by all police services across Ontario. In every investigation, there's a major case manager, and that's my position by virtue of being the staff sergeant of major crime. There's a lead investigator and a file coordinator, and this is known as our command triangle. Each investigation includes field investigators, an affiant, a family liaison, there's a media liaison, and then everybody directly reports to the lead investigator. So each investigation is unique and will face challenges throughout its entirety. It's common that each file is hundreds and hundreds of pages in files the size of it. We have interviews to conduct with accused and witnesses. We also complete canvasses to collect any CCTV footage that was available in the area. The amount of cell phones and CCTV footage that is collected during an investigation has grown exponentially. The data must be systematically analyzed, requiring hundreds of hours of work for investigators, and they're solely dedicated to this task. Technology is another challenge that we're facing. The sheer volume of information and data that can be stored on one cellular device is overwhelming. Cellular devices contain valuable information to our investigations, such as mapping links between the victims and the accused. So after an arrest has been made, the file coordinator has 15 days to make the first wave of disclosure to the Crown Attorney. That is court days or working days, and then after that, the second wave we have 45 days to make that second disclosure. Every homicide file will have a preliminary hearing. They're very complex investigations, and these hearings typically run 3 to 4 weeks. Once trial dates are set and prepared, and each witness is prepared, the trial can last for several months up to a year. Court dates are not normally set concurrently, and we're at the mercy of everybody's schedules. Recent trends have proven that first-degree murder convictions, they're likely going to result in an appeal process, and the Court of Appeal can grant an appeal for many numerous reasons. And then investigators are generally assigned and invested into their files for 2 to 3 years before matters are resolved. So that's my presentation. If anybody has any questions, Chair.
Thank you. Board members, any questions? No? It seems like it's a very complicated unit, especially with all of the data that's coming in now in various forms and having to sort through it. And then having to remember it over a couple of years is likely a challenge.
Yes, the members of our unit are very dedicated and stay with their files, so it's wonderful.
Sorry, we do have a question.
Sorry,
Member
I do have-
Kyokyo?
Yeah, one question. So the ones that are unsolved, how long do they stay on file for? Is it continuous or?
Right, so they'll remain with us until they're solved. Currently we have 13 cold case files within the service, and we have Sergeant Todd Clayton, Detective Sergeant Clayton is our cold case sergeant investigator, and he continuously monitors through each cold case file. So currently, the 2 homicides that we have unsolved from 2020 and 2022, I believe, those investigators are still working within the unit, so they've held on to their files and continue to collect data as that data comes in.
I guess through you, Madam Chair, I guess the longer it goes on, the more difficult it becomes. comes to
Yeah, yes, it
find
is.
them. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you,
It was
Chair.
great. If I can have members Capasavanu and Kiokio move that the presentation be received. Yes, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. So if I can move items 8.1 to 8.5 in block. If I can have members members Yip and Capasavanu move that the information be received. Any questions, comments? Members Yip.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Item 8.1, the 2020-2022 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan Status Update. It's recognized best practice to include diversity, equity, and inclusion in the organizational strategic plan rather than having a separate plan. So I'm wondering what work will be done to include diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and metrics in the next NRPS strategic plan.
Through you, Chair, that's a great question, and it's really, I guess that's the board's prerogative as to how that will work. It's the board's strategic plan, and if the board would like to incorporate the EDI plan within the strategic plan, we'll certainly work with the board to accommodate and make that happen.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, seeing none. Oh, sorry, Member Capasavanu.
Just as a follow-up to what Member Ip asked, do we have access to the current strat plan, the EDI strat plan that you're using? No, for the EDI, the separate EDI one. We've got the actual strat plan, but the EDI, internal EDI strat plan? Is there one?
Through you, Chair, yes, the board has copy of the strategic plan, and we're in the process of finalizing our latest iteration of the EDI strategic plan, and once finalized, that will be shared with the board as well.
Thank you. Board members, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? No one's opposed, that is carried. New business, 9.1, if I can have members Kiokio and Yip move that the board approve the following. A capital budget transfer of $700,000 from capital project 2000-1259 to 2000-0999 to consolidate the next generation 911 capital projects. Part 2 is a capital budget adjustment in the amount of $580,000 to increase project 2000999, to which the funding has been identified and approved by the regional treasurer as follows. The region capital variance project in the amount of $20,000, transfer from the region operating levy made available from the provincial NG 911 funding received in year in the amount of $250,000, and external funding in the amount of $310,000 from St. Catharines Fire Services and Niagara Parks Police, and that the amended projected capital levy reserve fund balances as shown in Appendix 1 and capital budget forecast for 2031 as shown in Appendix 2 can be received as a guideline for the development of future capital budgets. Are there any questions or comments? No? All those in favor? No one's opposed, so that is carried. 9.2, if I can have members Yip and Capasavanu move that the information be received, and that further, upon approval of the regional council, the chief of police be authorized to execute the contract as signor on behalf of the board. For that's the contract award of the Motorola Solutions. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? No one's opposed, so that is carried. 9.3, if I can have members Capasavanu and Kiokio move that the board approve the issuance of the purchase order in the amount of $250,000 for Lightning Equipment Sales, Inc., for the annual purchase of various special equipment installed in police vehicles. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? No one's opposed, so that's carried. 9.4, if I can have members Capizavanu and members Yip move that the board approve the acts on Public Safety Canada quote as appended to the report in the annual amount of $140,000, $115.87, including HST net of rebates. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? No one's opposed, so that is carried. Is there any other new business of the board members? No, Chief?
I don't have any new business, thanks.
Thank you. 11.1, we're going to move into in-camera reports. If I can have members Yip and Kiokio move that in accordance with the board direction, the above noted item be received as public information. Anyone, any questions, comments? No? All those in favor? No one's opposed, so that is carried. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody. The Police Services Board will adjourn the public portion of the meeting and reconvene in camera for consideration of confidential matters pursuant to Section 35(4) of the Police Services Act. Thank you, everyone.